We spend hours every single day scrolling, reading, just living our lives online. But let's kick off this explainer with a pretty massive question. How much of that digital world is actually natural, and how much is meticulously curated specifically for you? Today, we're unpacking the anatomy of influence, looking exactly at how governments, intelligence agencies like the CIA, and big tech algorithms actively manipulate public perception. Now, asking who controls your feed usually sends people straight down some pretty wild conspiracy rabbit holes, right? But look, while some theories claim these cartoonish levels of total top-down mind control, the reality, how governments and tech companies actually shape your feed, is way more structured. It's subtle, and honestly, it's a lot more fascinating. We're talking about a really delicate dance of shared incentives, venture capital, and some seriously advanced tech. Before we really get into the who and the how of it all, we kind of need to learn the vocabulary of influence. A perfect example is astroturfing. This is when bad actors use automated bot networks to just spam a narrative thousands of times, tricking our natural cognitive biases into thinking there's this massive grassroots consensus. Like when you see a trending hashtag, your brain just assumes, oh, everyone must agree with this, right? It makes us want to conform. That's just one sneaky way our perception is managed behind the scenes. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The battle for your mind. 2. Historical proof of covert influence. 3. The surveillance and tech alliance. 4. Weaponizing algorithms and moderation. And finally, 5. Reclaiming your digital independence. Let's get right into it.
Part 1. The battle for your mind.
All right, let's look at the actual intersection of state intelligence and big tech. The absolute crucial takeaway here is that it's not about total ownership. You'll hear the myth that the CIA secretly runs social media from some dark basement. Not true. Big tech companies are totally private, profit-driven corporations. But, and it's a big but, the evidence shows this incredibly complex web of shared incentives. Intelligence agencies literally pump money into tech startups through venture capital arms, like In-Q-Tel. And they also exert massive pressure on private platforms through something called jawboning, basically using their government authority to lean on companies about what content gets seen. It acts like an invisible hand on the moderation scale. Moving on to part 2, historical proof of covert influence. To really grasp how this operates today, we have to look back. The record shows a very clear, multi-decade pattern of state intelligence just embedding itself into private communications. Picture this. Back in 1970, the CIA and West German intelligence secretly bought Crypto AG, a super respected Swiss encryption company. For literally decades, they rigged the machines they sold to over 120 countries. That allowed the US to read classified diplomatic cables from all over the globe. No way, right? From that wild covert op to launching In-Q-Tel in 1999 to fund Silicon Valley, all the way to the 2013 Snowden leaks showing mass data collection, the precedent for this government-corporate integration is absolutely undeniable. And here's the thing, it wasn't just about quietly hoarding data, they were actively trying to shape what the world believed. Even back in the Cold War, spreading propaganda and planting fake news was a major, fully documented function of these agencies. John Stockwell, a former CIA intelligence officer, literally went on the record and admitted they routinely planted false stories in foreign newspapers. Then, global news agencies would just unwittingly pick them up and broadcast them as total fact. As he put it himself, it was pure, raw, false propaganda.
Which brings us to part 3, the surveillance and tech alliance. Fast forward to our modern digital era, and you can really see how that history laid the groundwork for a massive surveillance network. Rather than building their own platforms from scratch, governments just piggyback on the private sector's infrastructure. The source material details programs like PRISM, where the NSA tapped directly into tech servers, or JTRIG, a UK intelligence unit that actually had documented tools for manipulating online polls and artificially boosting approved messages on places like YouTube. And we can't forget the revolving door. We're talking about dozens of national security officials leaving government jobs just to take high-level trust and safety positions at major tech companies. The line between state security and private content moderation, it is incredibly blurry these days.
99%. Just let that sink in for a second. That staggering number is the percentage of the entire world's communications carried by undersea fiber optic cables. And leaked documents explicitly show that intelligence agencies were directly intercepting these exact cables. Their stated goal, in one of their internal presentations, mastering the internet. Literally, that was the phrase. Part 4. Weaponizing algorithms and moderation.
So it's clearly not just about passively scooping up data anymore. It is about actively controlling what you are allowed to see and even say. Have you ever noticed how the most fringe, polarizing stuff always seems to dominate your feed, while just regular, organic connection feels completely buried? Well, tech platforms use tricks like shadow banning to quietly throttle organic reach, keeping us all stuck in these highly profitable, anger-driven engagement loops. At the exact same time, government agencies use that job-owning tactic we talked about to pressure these platforms into censoring protected speech, usually framing it as a public safety issue. And it gets crazier. Congressional reports show federal agencies are now funding AI tools to automate the mass flagging and removal of content on a scale we've never seen before.
And we have the receipts for this. Source documents like the Twitter files, along with evidence from the Murthy v. Missouri Supreme Court case, show undeniable, highly coordinated pressure from the executive branch to silence very specific political and health-related speech. Internal emails revealed this wild dynamic where government agencies were basically treating private tech companies like their own subordinates. They were constantly flagging content, demanding it be taken down, all to dramatically shift the boundaries of public debate.
Now, you might be wondering, why go through all this trouble? Why actively suppress just normal, organic human interaction? Well, it really boils down to two things: predictability and control. Tech corporations squash unpredictable organic reach simply because outrage and division are way more profitable for their algorithms. Geopolitical institutions, on the flip side, view uncontrolled information flows as a huge threat to their preferred narratives. They basically want to domesticate the digital public square. Why? To prevent collective action and maintain political stability. Which leads us to our final section, Part 5, Reclaiming Your Digital Independence. All right, so now that we know exactly how this influence machine works, how do we actually deal with it without becoming completely paranoid or totally isolating ourselves? It's all about not being a victim to it. Step 1 is just individual awareness. You've got to catch those moments when an algorithm is literally trying to make you angry or scared. Just recognize the loop. Step 2, bypass those algorithmic funnels entirely. Go out of your way to find diverse, uncurated sources. Step 3 is super important for us as a community. We have to build and foster real, genuine human connections completely outside of these heavily monitored platforms. And finally, step 4, we need to throw our support behind networks that champion transparency over covert manipulation. Ultimately, true digital resilience for both you as an individual and for all of us as a community starts with that critical thinking. We really aren't just passive consumers of media anymore. We are active participants in a highly contested digital battlefield. It's time to intentionally choose real human connection over some manufactured consensus. So I want to leave you with this thought. The next time you feel a sudden, massive surge of outrage while scrolling through your feed, just take a breath and ask yourself, is this my actual emotion? Or is this just an algorithm doing its job?